Welcome to the Legal Innovation Forum podcast series, Leading at the Intersection of Business and Law. Today, we're interviewing Michael Hassan, Partner, General Counsel, and Secretary at Sagard Holdings. In this episode, Michael tells us about the evolving role of his legal department as he and his team continue to support business goals and growth plans at the global asset management firm. We also discuss Michael's thoughts on AI and how it will change the legal landscape, and he tells us how he's incorporating AI into his work at Sagard. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe and stay tuned for more episodes.
Welcome to our podcast. I'm Andrew Bowyer, founder of the Legal Innovation Forum. Today, we are interviewing Michael Hassan, who's Partner, General Counsel, and Secretary at Sagard. Based in Montreal, Michael is responsible for overseeing all legal and regulatory affairs and compliance at the global asset management firm, with a particular focus on fund governance, fundraising, M&A, transaction execution, and other firm-wide initiatives. Thank you for joining us today, Michael.
It's a pleasure, Andrew.
Great to have you. So let's hear about how you got here. Tell us about your career path and how it ended up in your current role.
Well, I don't know how far back I should start, but I'll start with my birth. I was born here in Montreal and lived here for most of my life. Went to law school at the University of Ottawa, met my beautiful wife in an exchange program. So she's from Argentina. And through that exchange, I articled, I worked with her, and we moved to Argentina, and I lived and started basically my career in Buenos Aires, where I worked for a small, mid-sized M&A firm that did some global transactions. So that's kind of where I honed my chops. We worked and lived there for about 2 years. After that, came back in September of 2001. Amid the turmoil in the world. And I started working at Ogilvy-Renaud, now Norton Rose, here in Montreal. Spent a few years there. Went to Quebecor World, the then largest commercial printer in the world. Managed to work on a bunch of things in both French, English, and Spanish, which I all speak. And worked at Quebecor, and then I spent the 17 years of my career at one of the largest Canadian pension funds, PSP Investments, where that was kind of the bulk of my career, and found an amazing practice over there. Worked in more than 30 jurisdictions, doing transactional M&A work, public markets, real estate, alternative assets, infrastructure, whatever you could think a large Canadian pension funds can invest in. We worked on the legal aspects of that. So I did that, and about 14 months ago or 15 months ago, I joined Sagard, a global investment manager, alternative investment manager, and I am the general counsel here, and try to help them grow into a much bigger global investment manager. So that's what I'm doing. And it's been just a blast.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So right now, according to the website, 27 billion assets under management, right. and there's a growth trajectory to grow to what size?
I think sky's the limit when you're talking about. We are trying to grow this through mergers and acquisitions, through onboarding new strategies, new LPs, new investors, and it is quite the challenge, and just an amazing growth story of this firm, which started it was 20 years ago, but really the big start was in 2016, where Sagard had about $500 million of assets under management. And now we are at an astonishing 27 billion in AUM. We're definitely supported a bunch of growth in the past year or so. So I expect that to continue over the next few years at a vibrant pace. So that makes you think about how you do things and how you keep things in check as you grow and acquire new businesses and integrate them and onboard those new individuals into the legal and compliance culture that you're trying to promote.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the history of Sagard. It was started, it's out of Montreal. So where, sort of how integrated it is into the Quebec's economy in terms of investments as well as funders. Maybe tell us a little bit more about that evolution, how it fits into the bigger business context in Quebec, which I want to touch on a little bit more
Sure.
in this conversation.
It's actually, it started as a more global firm, and it actually started out of France, believe it or not. So about 20 or some odd years ago, one of the managing partners moved to Paris and to start up our office there, our first fund there, and we have quite a few funds, a private equity fund and a VC fund based out of Paris. So it kind of started there.
Right.
And then, so really things started to transform themselves in 2016, as I mentioned, where we had about 500 million of AUM. And with the arrival of Paul Desmarais III, who's obviously my CEO, and with his arrival, there was just a bit of more than just a bit, quite a transformation as to what we can strive to become as a global investment and alternative investment manager. So that was kind of the big shift. And then, just growing through brand names like Portage, which is a VC firm here. He is the co-founder along with Adam Fileski. They co-founded this initial Portage firm. And that was kind of the big launch of Sagard. And then we continued to grow through a credit strategy, and just continuing to add different strategies to the business. And most recently, we acquired Sagard Real Estate, which used to be called EverWest, which is a 5 billion AUM real estate platform based out of the US. Also, a fund-of-fund business, a CLO business. We are on a tear, and probably one of the most complex businesses or asset managers in Canada for sure, in terms of number of strategies and the complexity, the regulatory complexity that we live in.
Right. And any of that investment or that strategy is focused specifically on Quebec or Canada at large, or just global opportunities too? Is there any theme there?
Portage, for example, is North American and European strategies. We also have another sleeve called Diagram. Diagram is very much Canadian and does growth capital and seed capital. So we have developed companies like Dialogue, like Wealthsimple is all part of our environment, and it stems from Portage and Diagram and Sagard. So those are kind of the big names that you would know about. So it has a great influence. I mean, lots of the professionals in our business live in Toronto and Montreal. We have offices in Denver through the Sagard Real Estate acquisition, and there, our CEO and our management team, a large part of our management team is based out of Montreal. So lots of influence, and lots of the big names here, including my former employee, PSP Investments and CDPQ, are all there. So it is a great time to be a Canadian firm with global ambitions and a global footprint.
Yeah, fascinating story and exciting to watch, and we'll be watching it closely as you grow. So what a big theme of ours this year, and you touched on it a little bit before, is that we live in risk-on times, and that could be construed as a positive thing in financial markets, But in a legal context, if we look at how things look in terms of the sort of characteristics and types of risks that are facing organizations, they've grown quite profoundly over the last 5 years. So 2025 looks quite a bit different than 2020. And so areas such as geopolitical risk, we have various political risks in all sorts of different countries. We have uncertainty around interest rates. Now we've gone from this zero interest rate environment we're used to operating into one that's fluctuating more. We have other areas like supply chain risk. We have the pandemic, all the outputs of that. So when you're investing, that's a big part of I'm sure the lens you need to look through. And that would be obviously on the portfolio management side and et cetera. But from a legal perspective, how is that framing the way you look at things in your evolution, in your role, and the value you're adding to the organization?
I mean, with risk comes opportunity, and there's a correlation between the two. So I think our role in this legal department is to translate those challenges, be it legal or regulatory, and transform those items into opportunities. So I think that's kind of one of our challenges, and to try to make these challenges and turn them into opportunities, and to allow our very talented portfolio managers, investment teams to pursue those opportunities that present themselves, and have an ability to be flexible, to understand risk, to adopt an approach that is risk-based, and not just say no. So to become a knowledgeable legal department that is creative, but is not taking obviously undue risk for the firm, right?
Yeah.
And when you're working across many different strategies like we are, the great advantage of that is that we have a bit of a cross-functional view of what everyone does. So everyone in the firm and all of these different strategies. And when you have that perspective, you can apply it to different strategies. So, oftentimes these strategies work a little bit in silos and don't necessarily know what each one is doing on a day-to-day basis. But as a legal department, I think one of the great advantages of a legal department is you get to see everything. And when you get to see everything, you can be a catalyst for other departments so that they can learn from the experiences of other strategies or other departments. So that's what I'm trying to do. And the challenges, there are many. There's a lot more regulation than there ever was, especially on the tech side, on the financial services side, on the investment management side. And you saw over the past few years an uptick in that level of scrutiny and regulatory purview. That might change in the next few years. Things are shifting, administrations are changing, but there is quite a heavy burden, a regulatory burden, that is being imposed on investment activity, both in Canada, in the US, and just globally. So understanding these markets is really important, and that's where we kind of bring value and say, hey, we can help you with this. We understand the regulatory environment there. We understand merger control. We understand foreign direct investments, restrictions, and we have the best advisors, or we have identified the best advisors, and we can give you, we can be the bridge between those advisors and translate that to something that's relevant to you. So that's what we're trying to do, and how we're navigating all of these risks right now. So how do you transform these challenges into opportunities, and just like try to control yourself from saying no? And that's very, very hard for lawyers. Trust me. So It's almost, have you ever done improv, Andrew? If you have,
Not very well, but I have tried. Yeah.
okay, well, it's
In high school drama. Yeah.
it's the yes and. We're on the yes and. It's like yes and we're going to do it like this, and I think that's what is motivates a firm like us, especially when you've got all of this energy and this ambition to grow into something really, really important and transformational for the Canadian investment management industry. That's how we're looking at things from a legal perspective. How do we support that growth ambition? How do we support integrating and compliance and pursue and promote that legal and compliance culture?
Lots of really interesting points here. I want to cover a couple of them. One is this regulatory landscape, which you said is it's a multiple speed landscape. And if we home in on, we have an administration change happening in the US. The expectation is there'll be lighter regulation. We'll see how that plays out. In an area such as ESG, which has been a very top of mind topic for a number of years, and generally speaking, in the last decade has been taken as a given, although now it's become politicized. So if you look in different jurisdictions, you have some jurisdictions which are taking a step back from ESG, and you see headline stories showing up in the major news, financial news publishers about big public companies taking a step back from it. But yet at the same time, in the European Union, this is still front and center. Canada, we'll see where it lands. I think there's probably a debate that will happen around, and I think it will be politicized. But how do you operate in that context? Because you have to kind of, ultimately you're deploying money and funds, and you have these different jurisdictions who are sort of thinking and saying different things. What's your take on that?
That's a challenge. That's one of the challenges that we have right now, is just figuring out what the minefield is. And there's definitely a shift in the US, some sectors of the US. It's not everywhere.
Yeah.
I think there's a baseline of what investors expect to see from an ESG perspective that's pretty much accepted and acceptable. That baseline in Europe is much higher. So how do you mesh them? I think you mesh them through speaking to your investors, putting them in vehicles that they're comfortable with, providing a lot more data, information as to how we do things. We're also in sectors that are not necessarily ESG heavy per se, or some of the more scary letters of ESG. So lots of tech or fintech is a big theme for us. So you don't have that many ESG issues. Or on the credit side, we're very careful in our selection. So we actually have really, really good ESG scores generally, but it's just finding the right balance and listening to your LPs and what they are comfortable doing. But we are not, we haven't adopted some strategies that really focus on ESG investing per se. That's not necessarily where we're going, but we're listening to our investors. We do have a climate tech fund, for example, and that is really interesting. But it's on the technology side of things. So how can you take advantage of the ESG or the environmental or the shift in climate and make interesting investments in that sector? So taking a look at the global environment, making sure that your investors are comfortable with the amount of ESG risk that you're taking, or the approach that you're taking, collecting and providing good data to your investors, and keeping it and monitoring yourself. Those are the keys to making sure that you can find a right balance. But it's definitely a challenge, and some investors have taken positions in the US either political or not, that they do not want to invest in firms that have ESG policies. It's there. So
yeah, it's there, but also in the press, they always like a good story to run at the headline that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story of what's actually going on underneath, right? And so that it's an interesting sort of example. I mean, we could talk about other regulatory regimes, but we would probably take well past lunchtime on this. So one other point,
but just Andrew, like we
Yeah.
do take it very seriously.
of course, yeah.
It's a big piece of conversation when we talk to our investors. We have sessions with them. It's something that we talk and update them on a constant basis. And we have an annual ESG report. This is something that we take very, very, very seriously, and we put an ESG lens on everything that we do. So it's part of it's part of the investment process. I don't think you can completely ignore or remove it these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just creates a tension rather than a given, which I think it was considered.
It's adjusting the lens or adjusting the focus, depending on the strategy, depending on your investor base, on the returns you want to achieve as well.
Sure, absolutely. Another point you mentioned, which just would be more of a tip for the audience, is I call legal departments and legal department leaders omniscients. You get to see across the organization like no other department, although some may argue finance gets the same too, but in a different context. But we won't get into that debate. But what's interesting there is you're a connector too, right? You're a connector of folks to say, and you made the point there to say, oh, have you talked to this person running this fund because they've done it this way, and you should think about that. How do you think it, like, and that's not normally, that's not what you're trained to do as a lawyer. You're trained to look at the lane of risk. So how do you think about that sort of creatively? And that's helping, really adding value to the business to help people connect the dots in ways and going outside of that remit of what you're supposed to do, which is manage risk, of course, but to think bigger like that and leverage that opportunity that you have to be kind of all-knowing.
I have this really, now it's really become dated, and as I grow older, the image that I try to describe is aging me, but I see it like, remember those old school operators that connect people? I think that's what a legal department should strive to be. Like, you cannot live in a silo. You need to understand every piece of the business, and the better you understand the business you're in, the business activities of your partners, of the investment teams, the better the legal department does, right? So when you're able to kind of connect the pieces, like I think we are able to do, be it like we're able to connect finance and treasury and HR when issues pop up. Hey, did you think of this? Did you think of that? You should speak to this person. I think that's when we bring a lot of value, and it's not legal per se.
Yeah,
it's just where we sit allows us to be uniquely placed, if you want, and make those connections. So I'll give you a couple of examples, but we're looking, let's say you're looking at something in one strategy, and something has happened or something is happening, and then you can quickly bring in the right people, be it different type of tax vehicle, or bring in HR people just to look at certain issues, or just encourage people to speak to each other from different asset classes or strategies and share and allow for that share. And it's not about us teaching anything or like imposing anything. It's just like, hey, did you think of doing this? So I think that's a really a key aspect that is oftentimes ignored, and legal departments are asked to, hey, just stay in your lane. I think you need to zigzag a little bit more. It's dangerous,
Well,
But I
but
think
it's also value added. It's also additive. It's accretive to the business, right? Like you
yeah,
said, I like that telephone connector idea. Putting the lines together. And I think that is, as you said, like it's a structural thing too, right? There's two things there's a number of things that lawyers have is one is that this analytical way of thinking about challenges, opportunities, and solutions to things is very unique. And then depending on what structure you're sitting in, if it's in-house or even in a law firm too, you could say the same thing. You do have an aggregate of knowledge and understanding of things that not isn't necessarily what you're asked to do in your role, but it's also very valuable to add to that overall business context, right? Like, and then I think that's a really interesting when we think about it. You've spoke at numerous events of ours in Montreal and in Toronto, I think too. And we how do we think about how in-house counsel add value to the business? That's like a perennial problem, right? Like how can we be a revenue generator instead of a cost center, et cetera, et cetera. But this I think is a really interesting way of looking at it, which is what you're doing, right? At least that's how I see it.
we're trying, but I mean, I don't want to say add value. And I know a lot of people just like to say, hey, we add so much value. It's like, you do and you don't. Like you're in French we say mal nécessaire, like you are a necessary evil in the whole grand scheme of things. And legal departments, you don't really need them if you have proper external counsel. That's going to sound very controversial, but so that's why you gotta really the baseline for a lawyer is we are really good at identifying problems and seeing issues everywhere we turn, right? That's kind of the base lawyer, but that's not a great lawyer or even a good lawyer. You got to be able to identify the issues, but then you have to understand, like match it against the business like your business strategy or your business objective, and like match that and then prioritize and say that's not important, that's important, and just kind of work through those issues. Those are the better lawyers, or the lawyers that do well in-house. It's the ones that are able to identify the issues, but bring up the issues that really speak to your business teams, that really matter for an organization from a legal and compliance and regulatory perspective. And that's really hard to teach. They don't teach you that in law school. I don't think they teach you that in law firms because law firms, no stone unturned. Leave no stone unturned, and that's not what we do in-house. We have to be able to make decisions, difficult decisions often, on the basis of an incomplete picture, incomplete information. That's really hard to do. And you need to stick your neck out and make calls on things that are not perfect. So, and you have to do it like understanding the risks that you're taking, and not everybody can do that. So when you can bring that to the table for your organization, I think, I won't say value add, but you are not so evil, and you are helpful and assisting and supporting the push to obtain value elsewhere. I think that's how I would see it.
I like that way of framing it. I think I'll take a look at the transcript after, and that'll help me think about how I frame it too, for our future programs. The way we talk about this notion of value, right? It's more complex than just cutting costs.
More complex because yes, you are going to spend money on lawyers. You're going to spend money on external counsel, and it's just finding the right balance. Like what makes sense to be done internally, what makes sense to be done externally. Like I want my lawyers, I'd like to think that I'm a bit of a jack of all trades and master of some.
Okay.
That works well. Like that works well because that's what you need in-house. Things shift, like, after this podcast, I'm going to run into 5 different issues, and I have to change hats on a daily basis. And it's like, I have to look at an HR issue. I have to look at an M&A issue. I have to look at a fund formation issue. I have to look at a regulatory issue. Like all of these different things. Am I the best at every single, all of these items? Probably not.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at a couple of these, but I will have, you have to have enough to be dangerous. And that's kind of figuring and understanding when you've become dangerous as in-house counsel. In a good way, I mean, like
in a good way, yeah. Positive dangerous. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So moving on, I mean, we connected in when you were in your former organization at PSP, and you ran a very interesting approach to legal operations. And you spoke about it actually at our first Montreal conference, which is 2023. Tell us how you're approaching the concept of legal operations at Sagard. What kind of areas are you focused on in terms of optimizing internally, working with third parties such as law firms, and your view on technology supporting your legal department?
How much time do we have, Andrew?
We have 6.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, how long is a piece of string? 6.
I can talk about this for hours. I think my team, shout out to my team, who's been very supportive and all of the transformational things that I've been attempting here at Sagard. It's legal operations are at the core of what in-house counsel does or needs to do. I don't think we are kind of fully aware that we're doing legal operations or have been doing legal operations for a while, and we've probably neglected that aspect. And as a profession, or as general counsels around Canada have neglected this aspect. And it is really important. We're talking about value or not being a cost center. Being able to come in, or even every couple of years, looking at how you do things, why you do them, and just questioning yourself as to whether that still makes sense. And like, where is my company, or where's my organization at this particular point in time? Might have made sense when we were $500 million to have a certain approach, have a bunch of bodies, right? But now that you're at 27 billion, well, the approach is different. Like it's super easy to just like throw bodies at stuff. Hire a bunch of lawyers and, hey, you know what? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fix this. I'm just going to throw a bunch of lawyers. Lawyers are really good at figuring shit out. Oops, sorry.
No problem.
All right. Lawyers are really good at figuring stuff out. And that can work really well, but it's a really expensive proposition to just throw bodies at a problem. So you really have to kind of think about how you do things, and just ask your internal clients on a periodic basis, how are we doing? Like, honestly, tell me, like, am I doing something that you think I shouldn't be doing? Am I going overboard on some stuff? And then you make adjustments. So that was kind of my approach when I came in. Met with a lot of internal stakeholders, external stakeholders as well, and just did a diagnosis of where we are, what does the firm want to do in the future, and how I can do a couple of things. Basically, when I came in, I said, I need to find, my team is going to listen to this, and they're going to say, we're sick and tired of this, but I need to find money, and I need to find slack, right? So that my team can stop focusing on things that are clerical in nature. It's surprising how much clerical items internal lawyers or in-house lawyers do, like finding documents, sending DocuSign envelopes, or getting stuff like that done, and having them focus on higher, I'm going to use the word value, which contradicts everything that I've said previously, but higher value items, or highly valued items that are our internal customers or clients consider. So that's kind of the shift that I'm trying to do. How are we doing this? We're doing this through playbooks, guidelines, understanding what our process looks like, and then identifying where we can have a risk-based approach. If you're using outside counsel already and they are signing off on deals, why do I need to add an extra layer of 1 or 2 internal lawyers to review a transaction? Where that law firm, with the right guidance, with the right guidelines, can act as an extension of a legal department. And it doesn't cost more. Costs the same, right? And suddenly I've freed up some time. So using those types of approaches to how we do things. Similarly, for Sagard Real Estate and just using that type of approach on leasing activities, just making sure that we have a consistent approach, pushing some of these playbooks to our stakeholders and making them accountable. Ultimately, they are the ones that are accountable for the actual leasing work, the acquisitions, the dispositions, and working closely with the law firms. And where we shine is when we can bring perspective, a regulatory perspective, fund formation, items that our team members are not used to doing on a daily basis. Their bread and butter is doing transactions, leasing, acquisitions, dispositions, investing. That's their bread and butter. They're really, really good at it. Really good. And they don't necessarily need us. And you have to be able to kind of take a step back and recognize that. And it's okay. It doesn't mean that the legal department disappears. It means that the legal department shifts on things that are more required. What's the lifeblood of an investment manager? Fundraising. We need to grow through M&A, through raising funds with our investors. How do I focus the energy and the time that we have, or the time that we've released, into those aspects? Because that's the lifeline, that's the lifeblood of our organization, right? So thinking about it differently. So I haven't spoken specifically about legal operations, but for example, legal, when I started, reviewed every single contract. Legal signs every single contract at Sagard. That might have been okay a few years ago when we were a smaller firm, but you've got a firm that has more than 400 employees. You've got very senior people in very senior roles. You got to make people accountable for what they're doing. And there's the illusion that if a lawyer signs something or reviews something, that it's good, right? And that's not necessarily how things work, right? Like you don't have the perspective, you haven't negotiated the terms, you're just kind of like processing, and you're not advising. So just trying to kind of shift those things, and you do it through contract and review signing policies. You do it through looking at your roster of law firms, what makes sense. You find money and start imposing some discounts or volume discounts. You identify pockets of where law firms are helping you. You also ask the law firms, hey, I need you to monetize that CLE session. Like, fake invoice it to me. I need to know what you're bringing to the table. So I ask the law firms, when they do CLE, I want a netted invoice. So at the end of the year, when I assess what they've given me, I can translate it into dollars. So,
it's like soft dollaring.
Here's my straight line discount. Okay, fine. Those are dollars. But here's all the other stuff that I did for you. I gave you like 20 hours of CLE, and I prepped for it, and I traveled to see you, and like, here's all the stuff that we gave you. So it's really looking at how you can transform what you do. And so a lot of it is low tech. It's just looking at process and seeing what needs to be removed or adjusted. And then there's the tech. And then on the tech side, like, we're doing some really, really, really exciting things. And we're probably I would say in just the past year, we're probably one of the most innovative legal departments in Canada. I think we're right up there, and I will challenge any legal department in this country to show more innovation than what we have done over the past 12 to 14 months. It's been really exciting, and one of the big things that we've necessarily shifted in is artificial intelligence and the workflows and automation as much as we can.
So, artificial intelligence, the final theme of our conversation. We've gone 48 minutes without it even coming up. Two halves to my question. How transformative do you think artificial intelligence will be in our economy, in our society? You're seeing on the front line, technology is a key sector. Your technology companies are part of a key sector you're investing in. Montreal and Quebec is a global leader in artificial intelligence startups. I think it could be considered one of the key artificial intelligence hubs in the world, which is fabulous. And the impact is if you watch the stock market, they're a little unsure about it this week, but if you look in the last few years, everyone thinks this is going to be completely transformative. To what extent do you think it will completely transform business, society? And then the second question is, where do you see that fitting in and impacting the legal sector? Is this the catalyst moment that people who've been watching legal innovation for years and decades even now have been saying it's going to change everything? There'll be a tipping point. Is this the catalyst to the tipping point? And where do you see it ending up in a 3 to 5 year context for the legal sector, how it's structured, etc.?
I mean, from a society perspective, I don't think that it's transformed very much at this particular juncture, other than you might be speaking to a chatbot on the phone or texting with a chatbot for some services. And I mean, obviously that's exciting, and you can get a lot of good information very quickly and not wait. Your call is important to us. Not getting that type of response, so that's okay. And you can see that on the business side that AI is being used in many different ways and tasks, and it's accelerating innovation. It's accelerating how fast we can do things, how fast we can compute and process information. It's exciting. I think it's as exciting as, again, that'll date me, but when the internet became democratic through Google or Yahoo or email, that's how exciting it is. Like suddenly being able to tap into a world of information that you could never imagine. I remember when I articled, when I was looking for a job, I had no contacts, like didn't know any lawyers, and I was just taking lists and mail merging and sending a bunch of letters, and I would go to interviews, meet lawyers, had no idea what the law firm did, or who the lawyers were, or what their background is. And with the internet, you're just like, oh my God, you go into an interview, you go meet somebody, you can know so much more about that person and engage with them so much quicker. Just the knowledge is out there. And that was kind of a very transformational age for, I think, society and the legal profession as well. AI, I think, is similar in nature. It is, to me, the great equalizer. It now takes somebody, I'll take lawyers, but like some lawyers are really, really talented, and but they're not great at writing, or their skill sets are not great, but they're super creative. They can do a bunch of things, but when they translate it into a deliverable, it's not up to par with respect to what a law firm would expect. So adding AI for those individuals in terms of how they communicate, how they can speak, how they can translate ideas, it will be transformative for these individuals. It is the great equalizer. I think that is kind of people that have ADHD or that have those types of challenges will find AI to be of great help and unlock their talent much faster than we could do in the past, than what we could do in the past. In terms of the legal profession, it is very scary for all the lawyers out there. I am probably the biggest proponent of the use of AI, and that scares a lot of people because it threatens the livelihood of a bunch of people. And does the hourly rate mean anything today? And I think a lot of law firms right now are just kind of, being a bit of an ostrich and just sticking their and just hoping that the AI fad will pass. It will not pass, I promise you, because what's happened with the inflation in terms of hourly rate, we're talking about challenges, that is definitely one. There has not been a revolution in terms of in-house or companies saying, I'm not paying $1,000 an hour. Like that was unheard of maybe 12 years ago. Now it is kind of the average for a partner. You are getting close to $2,000 an hour. It is, you can't keep up right now. Like law firm fees when you're doing an M&A transactions are like competing sometimes with investment banker fees. It's like that's unheard of. So how do you change that narrative? And it's not going to come from the law firms. The law firms are doing stuff with AI. They don't talk to their clients about it. They don't talk to me about it, even though I prompt them all the time. So as in-house counsel, we have to start adopting some of that technology and use it in order to take away the chunky costs or the profit centers for law firms. Perfect example is like, you can do due diligence on a multitude of contracts faster than a speeding bullet, and you could do it at a fraction of a cost. So if you look at an M&A transaction, let's say it costs $500,000, there's about $200,000 worth of due diligence. Technically, an in-house department with the right legal tools right now, today, not in 5 years, today, they can take those contracts to due diligence, put them in an AI machine, and spit out results, and then ask the law firm, hey, I need you to review that report.
Yeah.
So if they don't use it and like be smart about how they use AI and pass on the savings to me, to us, then
you're going to do it.
Rip out that work from them.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the scary part of what's happening for them. It's exciting for me, but it's also scary for others.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I think, forward-thinking law firms, well, with any business, you kind of need to live in the moment, and law firms are businesses. And like you said, this isn't going away. This is a permanent thing. And how are you thinking about your value proposition in 5 years? Because a lot of the conversation regarding law firms we've had today, it's been very positive. They're very fundamental arms of supporting your legal department, and you're fine with paying for that value that they're bringing to you, whatever you define as that value, right? You've given a few examples, and it is extremely valuable to organizations, and they're willing to pay a high premium for it. They just may not be willing to pay billable hours for that. And that key thing is I really think where it will come to. It's not that it's not necessarily the amount at the end of the day. It's how do you prove the value? And what's interesting is that law firms, big law firms, seem to be a real holdout on the billable hour thing. And like you said, there's that rate inflation thing that we're all seeing, a profitability, and raises a question for a firm like yours that's involved in lots of transactions. Should the people doing the deals be getting paid less than the people working on the contracts raises an interesting question as a business person. Not sure.
The AI is there. We are we're one of the first Canadian in-house departments to adopt this really powerful tool called Harvey AI. And, it's a tool that's being used by law firms, somewhat secretly, some not so secretly. And we are leveraging this, and we're trying to embed AI use in everything that the legal department does right now.
Yeah.
So that makes us faster, cheaper, and better. So you remember the holy grail of the 3 services? You can only do you can only pick 2 out of the 3: good, fast, and cheap. I think with AI, we can deliver all 3 of them. It is very exciting, and I think you've got it's going to be a challenging couple of years. But again, the challenge is an opportunity. If you are a first mover, it might be scary. It's like, oh my God, what's going to happen to my data, the privacy, this, that, whatever. We were asking the same questions on cloud computing. We were asking the same questions on the internet and email, and nobody talks about these things anymore. So you have to experiment, you have to pilot, you have to talk to your law firms. How are you going to translate this into savings for me, or give me cost certainty? Something that the law firms historically have been terrible at. They cannot budget for their lives. And that's a problem. We set up budgets, why can't they? Everybody can do it except for lawyers. Yeah. So I think that's the great equalizer. And if law firms don't start using AI, clients will, and they will lose out on something that they could probably be the leaders in, and make me forget about using AI.
Right. Absolutely. Michael, we will wrap today's conversation. Fascinating. I knew we'd take the full hour, and I know we could have done another couple hours on all the other things I wanted to talk to you about. So we'll have to have you back. Sure. Appreciate you taking your time. Congrats on all your successes in your career, in your current role, and becoming partner. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. You guys are doing wonderful things at the Legal Innovation Forum, really helping the in-house community think about things differently. So more power to you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to the Legal Innovation Forum podcast. Stay tuned on our website for the next edition. You can listen to us on all your favorite podcast platforms. Tune in on liforum.co/podcasts.